I'm going to explain you with chapter number 8, which is Owls in the Family. Okay, it's on page number 108. I hope you all do refer to your textbooks whenever we are explaining about the chapter because that's necessary, else you will find it difficult to understand. Okay, so before we start with the chapter, Owls in the Family is written by a famous author, a famous writer, that is Ruskin Bond. So just to know about Ruskin Bond, he was one of India's most adored writer. Everybody liked him a lot. He was born in Kasauli in 1934 and he grew up in Jamnagar, Dehradun, New Delhi, and Shimla. His fractured, traumatic childhood shaped a lot of his writing, perhaps making him more sensitive to children and their problems. In 1951, Ruskin penned his first book, The Room on the Roof, which gave him which went on to win the John Llewellyn Rhys Prize. He writes fiction for both children and adults and is popular with both. Mr. Bond received the Sahitya Academy Award in 1992 for Our Trees Still Grow in Dehra. He was also awarded the Padma Shri in 1999 and Padma Bhushan in 2014 for his contribution to literature. This is all about our author Ruskin Bond. I'm sure many of you must have read a lot of books written by him. Oh, a furious owl you can see over here. Well, this poem, this lesson is based on the owlets or an owl that comes to the author's house and how well they take care of it. So it's just a description of the entire thing. Okay. Before we start with reading the lesson and understanding it one by one, I would just like you to take you through the warm-up part of the textbook. Okay, here they have given a few information regarding the owl. So I would like to just read out for you all. Owls are active at night, which are called as that's why they are called as a nocturnal bird. Okay, so they are mostly awake at night, and a group of owls is called a parliament. Like the when you come across the collective nouns, you will come across the word parliament. So it is parliament of owls, we say. Okay, like a herd of sheep. Similarly, for owls, we call it as a parliament when more number of owls are there. Most owls eat only plants. Owls have powerful talons or claws. They use these to kill their prey. Owls have large eyes and a flat face. Owls can turn their heads as much as 270 degrees. Owls make a lot of sound as they fly. The color of their feathers helps owls to blend into their environment or a camouflaging color. So if the owl is found on the bark of the tree, you would actually not identify or you would not be able to make out if the owl is sitting there. Owls are considered to be blind. Okay, so these are certain facts about owls, and I have read all these things from your warm-up session from the textbook. The main moral of the story by Ruskin Bond titled Owls in the Family is that the hooting of owls is not a thing of bad omen, but a natural call just like any other bird. It should not be looked at with fear or prejudice, but instead, even owls should be considered a lovely bird. Hope you all understood this fact. The author is trying to say that though owls, it's because owls live at night or they are awake at night. It doesn't mean that when the owls are hooting or making sound or they are flying from one place to another, it's a bad omen. It is not. They should be considered as a normal bird, like any other bird who lives or who is awake in the morning or in the daytime. So owls are not to be considered to be as a bad omen or something bad would happen only because owls are hooting. So that's what the author tries letting us know, which we should keep it in mind. So to begin with the chapter, I would read the paragraph and explain to you simultaneously. One morning we found a full-fledged baby spotted owlet on the ground by the veranda steps. When the grandfather picked it up, it hissed and clacked its bill. but after a meal of raw meat and water, settled down for the day under my bed. Spotted owlets Spotted owlets are small birds and they have none of the sinister appearance of larger owls. The owlet is not normally afraid of humans. Sorry, the owlet is not normally afraid of humans, nor is it strictly a night bird, but it prefers to stay at home during the day, as it is sometimes attacked by other birds who consider all owls their enemies. So that is the reason. Now we know why the owls stay back at home in the daytime and they are awake at night, because they are considered to be very different from the other birds and they are being attacked by the other birds. So for their protection or for them to keep it safe, they are at home most of the times in the daytime, the day period. So they stay at home, and at night is when they are free to move out. Okay. Uh, Spotted is nothing but the kind of owl that we are talking about. There are different kinds of owls, like the snow owl, and there are different other kinds of owls as well. So this is one of those spotted kinds of owls where you can see on their body spots on their body, or the dots that you can see which is there on their body or in their wings. That's why they are called as the spotted owlet. Sinister, I came across the word sinister appearance. So, what is sinister appearance? That making them feel that something bad or evil might happen. So, that's what initially I spoke about. Owls should not be considered as a bad omen thing or as a sinister bird which gives bad thing or which brings bad news. Okay, so they shouldn't be considered in that manner. They should be given all importance, same like any other birds are. Okay. So the owlet happened to be picked up by the grandfather when he saw near his veranda. And the moment he was picking it up, he was making sounds like, he hissed and clacked its bill. But then after a meal of raw meat and water, they settled down under the author's bed. So clacked over here means making sound, okay, with their feathers, or when they were moving on the floor, on the ground, they were moving their feathers and it would make a clacking sound. When two things uh, come together, they make a sound. So that's what exactly was happening. And the spotted owlets were very small birds, and they have none of the sinister appearance of larger owls. So the owlet is not normally afraid of humans. So here these owlets were not afraid of the humans, seeing the grandfather or the author, but they were quite happy when they were given raw meat and water. So after having those things, after having it, they were happy and they settled down. Okay. The little owlet was quite happy under my bed. The following day we found a second baby owlet in almost the same spot on the veranda. And only then did we realize that where the rainwater pipe emerged through the roof, there was a rough sort of nest from which the birds had fallen. We took the second young owl to join the first and fed them both. So the next day morning, what happened? Again, they happened to see one more owlet which came onto their veranda and it sat there again. Okay. And then they noticed that from the roof there was a hole, or from where the rainwater pipe had broken or maybe some damage had caused out there. So due to that, there was a nest which was built up next to it of those owls, and it happened to fall down from there. And that's how these owlets, these small little owlets, happen to fall onto their author's veranda. So what happens after that? They pick him up as well, pick it up as well, and puts it along with the other owl, and they both were fed together. Okay, so now when I went to the bed, they were on the ledge just inside the mosquito netting, and later in the night, their mother found them there. From outside, they crooned and gurgled. From outside, she crooned and gurgled for a long time, and in the morning I found that she had left a mouse with its tail tucked through the mosquito net. Obviously, she put no great trust in me as a foster parent. So, what happened after that? These both of them were fed together, and the author was taking very good care of them. Okay, and they were slightly going to sleep, or they were slightly relaxing and taking a good nap with in the mosquito net ledge at the corner of the bed, and they were slightly having a good relaxed time. And at the night, what happens? The mother comes searching for them. So when she finds that they are not there in the nest, the mother owl comes down to look out for in the window. So when she checks out from the window, she croons and gurgles. So what is croons and gurgles? She makes a soft and pleasant sound. So that making that sound, she assumed that the children or the owlets would wake up and follow her back to her house or to her nest. But it didn't happen. She understood that they were not awake, and they went to a good sleep. Okay. So later at night, she wasn't very sure that her owlets were taken good care by the author or so, or by their people. So she happened to leave a small rat inside the mosquito net. Okay, she leaves a mouse with its tail tucked through the netting out to the netting. That means a net which was there. So she inserts, or she puts inside a mouse into the mosquito net, so that with the the disturbance of the mouse, when the mouse starts moving or so, getting scared of the mouse, or by knowing that some other prey has come inside, animal had been there inside, these owlets might fly and come back to her, to the mother owl. But it did not happen. So the author is saying perhaps somewhere the mother owl was not feeling very happy, or she wasn't trusting the author that he is taking good care of her owlets. Foster parent, the one who is taking care of the children without being their original parent, without being their original mother or father. Okay. The young birds thrive, and 10 days later, at dawn, grandfather and I took them into the garden to release them. I had placed on a branch of the mango tree and was stooping to pick up the other when I received quite a heavy blow on the back of my head. A second or two later, the mother owl swooped at grandfather, but he was agile enough to duck out of this way. Quickly, I placed the second owl under the mango tree. Then, from a safe distance, we watched the mother fly down and led her offspring into the long grass at the edge of the garden. So soon after, what happened? The next day morning, the author tries to put back both the owlets into the tree, so that they can get back to their mother. Okay, so the young birds thrive, and 10 days later at dawn, so it's like 10 days later, so till then the author was taking care of those owlets, and slowly and gradually these birds had grown big. Okay, they had grown larger, they are growing big, and they were thrive. So thrive means what? They're growing well, they were growing bigger. Grandfather, I took them into the garden to release them. So once they were able to fly, or once they were in a position where they can fly on their own, grandfather and the author decided to place them on the mango tree. So he was stooping to pick up the other. I mean, he kept one owl on one of the branch, and he was bending down or going forward to pick up the other owl and to place that owl on the branch of a mango tree. Immediately he received a heavy blow on the back of my head, as if somebody had hit him on the back of his head. And when he looked out for it, he found that it was the mother owl who had come, swooping down at grandfather for the second time. So she was trying to attack the author as well as the grandfather. So the mother owl, at the beginning, she felt very scared. She wasn't sure that what the author was trying to do with her children. So the owlets were there being kept on the branches. She thought they might be harming them. So that is the reason, to protect her children. She happened to fly down quickly and give a blow at the author's head. And also she tries to attack at the grandfather. But though the grandfather was very alert, he was agile, he could move immediately. He knew that this could happen to him as well. So he was very alert, and he happened to move quickly from that place. And he did not get any, he was not blowed by the owl. So then, from a safe distance, they were very careful what to do with the owl. So they, from a very safe distance, or very carefully, they placed both the owlets on the branch, and they watched that the mother fly down. The mother had come down and let her offspring, the children or the owlets, into the long grass at the edge of the garden. So she happened to pick them up and take them to a safer place. Okay. We thought she would take her family household, but next morning, on coming out of my room, I found two young owls standing on the wall just outside the door. I ran to tell grandfather, and when we came back, we found the mother sitting on the bird bath 10 yards away. She was evidently feeling sorry for her behavior the previous day because she greeted us with soft woohoo. Okay, so the next day, what happened? The author assumed that the owl had taken and moved out from there. She is not going to come back. That's what the author thought about her. Okay, so she happened to she would take her family. So that's what the author had told. Author assumed that she would be taking her family, that means the owlets, and moving out from there. But he did not expect them to come back the next day. But what happens is the next day morning, both the owlets, the two young owlets, were standing next, just in front of his door, and he ran to tell his grandfather about their arrival. He goes back inside, and he feels very happy to see those owls back to his house. And when he comes back, he finds the mother sitting on the bird bath. Okay, bird bath is a small bathtub kind of a thing where there's water for the birds to take bath. Okay, like you have bathtubs for children, babies, we use a bathtub to bathe them. Similarly, even there is in the garden people do place like a fountain kind of a thing. A small bird bath is being kept outside. So they saw the mother owl sitting some 10 yards away or a little far away on the bird bath and watching it. So she was evidently feeling sorry for her behavior. So she was like, she was very upset, the mother owl. She felt very bad that she tried to attack the author and the grandfather who were trying to protect his children or who were taking good care of her children. And, they had fed them all this time, all those 10 days or when they had fallen down. So looking at that, the mother owl could realize that she had done a mistake by attacking them. So she greeted them with a soft woo-hoo, like she was a little upset, so kind of a mellow down voice. So that's what she tried to put it across in front of the author and the grandfather. Next one. Now there's an unselfish mother for you, said grandfather. So the grandfather understood that the mother had come to, to protect her child, or the mother owl is there who is not selfish for herself. Earlier she had attacked, she didn't know what was going on. So she had left the mouse inside, etc. So now you have an unselfish mother who is like not selfish at all. So it's obvious she would like them to have a good home. So she knew that the children or her owlets would be protected, would be taken care very nicely by this family. So she knew that, and that's the reason she happened to leave both her owlets on the veranda or on the front door of the author. And they are probably getting a bit too big for her to manage. Yes, so they were growing big. They were, they were growing older. So it was becoming difficult for the mother owl to take care of them. So the two owlets became regular members of a household. So the two owlets happened to keep visiting the author's house. And strangely enough, they were among the few pets that grandmother took a liking to. So their grandmother was one of the sweetest person in the house who used to take care of all the pets around her. Okay, so she liked the pets. She had taken care of. She objected to all snakes, most monkeys, and some crows, but she took quite a fancy to the owls and frequently fed them on spaghetti. So the grandmother used to, be a little hesitant to take care of the other pets like the monkeys or crows, etc., because they must be a little scary ones. So she was a little hesitant, but she took good care of those owlets, and she fed them with spaghetti at times. So that's what the author is trying to tell us over here. They seemed quite fond of spaghetti. In fact, the owls became so attached to the grandmother that they began to show affection towards anyone in petticoats. So it happened that the grandmother was the dearest one for the owlets or for their little ones, or the young owls over there, because they were taken care by the grandmother, and grandmother used to always feed them with whatever they liked, and spaghetti was one of their favorites. Now it happened that the owls were also getting very attached with the grandmother, and they had always seen a grandmother with a petticoat, right? Petticoat, a kind of a typical dress that the old women wear. So they had started identifying grandmother who wears a petticoat. So whoever they see in a petticoat, the owls used to feel, or the young one used to feel, that it is the grandmother who's going to take care of them. So including Aunt Mabel. So Aunt Mabel may be a regular visitor in their house, and she must be also wearing same kind of a costume, same kind of attire. Who was terrified of them. She was also being taken very, she was also being loved by those owls. So she would run shrieking from the room every time one of the birds sidled up to her in a friendly manner. Forgetful of the fact that grandfather and I had reared them, the owls would sometimes swell their feathers and snap at anyone in trousers. So the owls were very attached to the grandmother. They never knew that the grandfather and the author were the ones who were actually taking care of them more than the grandmother, because grandmother was the only one who's to feed them or who's just giving them food. But the other part of the daily chores or whatever the other thing needs to be taken care and very carefully or very protectively was being done by the grandfather and the author. So forgetting that fact that they were the one who reared them, or they were the one who brought them up so big and uh, well, the owls used to, flap their, snap their, what do you say, their feathers on them, or trouble them, whoever is seen in trousers. Okay, so grandfather and the author used to be in trousers, so they could not identify if it was the grandmother or the grandfather. To avoid displeasing them, grandfather wore a petticoat at feeding time. So at times what used to happen if grandmother is not able to feed the owls, it was grandfather who used to feed them. And to avoid getting attacked by them, avoid getting troubled by the owls, the little owls, the grandfather used to wear the petticoat, okay, the same kind of a dress what the grandmother used to wear. So that smell or the kind of dressing would make the owls feel that, okay, they are protected, they are comfortable, and they are being taken good care by the grandmother. So the feeling of grandmother being there was given to them by wearing just a petticoat. This mild form of transvestism appeared to satisfy them. I compromised by wearing an apron. So the author was very small, so he is shorter, he is small, young. He could not wear a petticoat. So what he used to wear, he had compromised it by wearing an apron. That was almost equivalent to what a petticoat is. Okay, coming to the next paragraph. In response to grandmother's voice, the owlets would make sounds as gentle and soothing as the purring of a cat, like the cat, how the cat makes a soft sound or mews very softly and very soothingly. When they're looking at grandmother, or whenever they hear grandmother's voice, the owlets also used to make this gentle sound. Okay. But when wild owls were around, ours would rend the night with blood-curdling shrieks. So when the owls used to be, the big owls or the wild owls used to be around, okay, at that time, the owlets or the young ones, they get scared. They used to get very scared about them, and they used to shriek, or they used to make a sound. They used to get feared about the wild owls there. So their nightly occupation was catching beetles. And what they used to do at night? To catch beetles, with which the kitchen quarters were infested at the time. So, and it was used to be in the kitchen area, and if the lights are on, obviously the beetles would, keep roaming around out there. So they were always infested. With their sharp eyes and powerful beaks, they were excellent pest destroyers. So they never had to use a pest control over there. The young owls used to do that work. So they could snap them up easily and eat them. So that was their favorite hobby at night to do. The owls loved to sit and splash in shallow dish, especially if cold water was poured over them for a jug at the same time. So the owls were also given a bathtub or a bird bath kind of a thing, a small dish, a shallow dish where they can pour the cold water, and they can splash water on them. Okay, they would get thoroughly wet, jump out on the perch, shake themselves, and then return for a second splash and sometimes a third. So you must have seen birds getting wet in rain, or getting wet in a tumbler that you keep some water with. You can observe that. Otherwise, the birds, how they get into it, they flap their feathers, they jump up into it, and then they come out, shake themselves to dry the water, and then they had sometimes getting back into the water again to get wet. The same things were be done by the owls over here as well. They needed cages for protection against attacks from wild birds, so they were also given a cage over here. Hmm. At night, they had the freedom of the house, where exercised their wings as much as they liked. So, what they used to do at night, they were left out from the cage. They were not put up inside the cage, so they could move out. They can fly inside the house. That was a biggest exercise for their wings because they can fly and move their wings as much as they liked. Superstitious folk who dread the cry of the owl may be interested to know that mice expected there were no untoward deaths in the house during the owl's residence. So the author is trying to say that until the time or till the time these owlets were there, or these young owls were there at their house, they were howling or they were moving around in their house, they used to make sounds. Nothing untoward happened in their house, nothing bad came to their house. But people believe that if you hear an owl cry or sound, the way they make sounds at night, it's not good and it would bring some kind of a bad news. Okay, so that's what the author is trying to say. It's all a myth, it's all just a superstition. Okay. Looking back on those childhood days, I carry in my mind a picture of grandmother in her rocking chair with a contented look in her, with a contented look, okay, in her contented look or contented owlet sprawling on her aproned lap. Okay. Once on entering her room while she was having an afternoon nap, I saw that one of the owls had crawled up her pillow till its head was snuggled under her ear. Both grandmother and the little owl were snoring. So when the author think about those days, that the days when these owls were being there in his house and they were taken care, how they lived, how they were so attached to the grandmother and his family, he just remembers about them very happily. So he carries this picture of a grandmother who had this contented look in her rocking chair. So she had this beautiful rocking chair where she used to sit and go for a nap or sleep for a while. So on entering her room while she was having an afternoon nap, he happens to see that the owls, one of them crawls up to her pillow very close to her ear and snuggles under her ear. Snuggles, cuddles like very close to them, very close to that cozy feeling of grandmother's touch, and both of them and all the three of them are snoring. Okay, they go to sleep. So it's understood that all the three of them are very peaceful and peacefully sleeping. So that's all with the lesson, children. I hope you all will go through the textual exercises as well. Please go through the textual exercises, and the notes would be posted in your teams as always. Fine. Just read the lesson. Please read the lesson, which is necessary, very, very necessary, and go through the textual exercises and solve them. Okay, have a good day. Take care, stay happy, and stay fit.